Welcome to BledTalk, the podcast that helps you master the English language through everyday conversations. I'm your host, Samuel Bledsoe, and I'm thrilled to have you join us on this language learning journey. Whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced learner, BledTalk is here to provide you with engaging and immersive content that will enhance your English skills in no time. Each episode will dive into a conversation between native English speakers, discussing interesting and relatable topics. You'll get to hear natural, authentic English being spoken, allowing you to pick up new vocabulary, idioms, and improve your pronunciation along the way. BledTalk isn't just about language learning. It's about building connections and fostering a global community. We encourage you to participate by sending in your questions, topic suggestions, or even recording yourself speaking English. We'll feature some of your submissions in our episodes to create an interactive learning experience. So whether you're a student, a working professional, or simply someone who wants to expand their horizons, join us on BledTalk, where learning English becomes an enjoyable journey. This is Samuel Bledsoe, and you're listening to BledTalk. Let's get started. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to BledTalk, and I'm here with Austin again. He was here on the first episode. We talked a little bit, but he didn't get to talk a whole lot, actually. I think I was the one who talked most of the time. So today we're going to talk about him. We're going to ask him some questions and get to know him a little bit. Like I've told you before, he's a good friend from a long time ago. And so we're going to kind of go into that. How did we become friends, and kind of why we stayed friends for so long. But Austin, can you tell us a little bit about you? Tell us about where you grew up, where you're from, what you do.
Yeah. So Austin, my name's Austin. I've been Sam's friend for many years. Currently, in life, I have 2 kids. I'm married and living in the great state of Missouri and doing media for sports. So it's pretty jazzy.
What is media exactly?
So it's kind of just all across the place. I do a range of photography, videography, graphic design, pretty much that lane, anything up that lane for our baseball program and softball program.
Oh, okay. Is where you work, is that just baseball and softball, or is it a variety of sports?
What the entity I'm tied to specifically is just baseball and softball. But the greater a global company, we do baseball and softball, not basketball. We used to do basketball. We had a partner who did that, but currently golf, and then strength and conditioning and CrossFit. So places you won't see me besides maybe the golf place. Yeah.
So basically strength and conditioning, golf, baseball, softball. And for those of you who don't know, softball is, I would say it's not the feminine version of baseball, but I mean, how would you describe softball?
It is a more at the competitive level of fast pitch, it's the female equivalent to baseball,
right?
In terms of an equal sport. So that would be their equal sport. But then on a more broader community scale, they have like slow pitch softball, which is real great for, anybody to play. They often use that as like a global sport, since it's simple to learn. Everybody kind of can get the gist of baseball. And it's kind of like that same concept, just on a smaller field with a bigger target to hit.
Okay. No, that makes sense. Yeah. I think that's pretty accurate. And would you say that baseball is your favorite sport outside of work as well? Or do you have a different favorite sport?
Yeah, I would say it's probably my favorite sport outside of work too. I just grew up playing baseball, grew up watching baseball, grew up watching MLB Network, and the St. Louis Cardinals. Growing up in Missouri were our big sports team because that's about all we had. The Rams, when we had football, weren't good, and the Blues didn't win a championship until 2019, so there wasn't much to look and enjoy growing up besides Cardinals baseball. So yeah, or basketball. You know a lot about I
Oh,
love a basketball. So
I love basketball. Basketball is what I breathe. It's funny because, people talk to me and they automatically think that, oh, you must love football, American football. You think that American football is the best, and they think that I am obsessed with it. And I do love it. I love to play football. I love to watch it. But basketball, I would say, is my real passion. It's where I flourish, even though, especially when I was a lot lighter, when I wasn't as fat, basketball was it's a lot better. It was a lot easier. Um, but so when you say that you do media, do you record videos, or do you kind of do the marketing area, or you create the content and then the marketing team does that, or do you do everything?
it's a lot of just all the above. We do have a marketing person who like is more on the strategy side. I am in charge of like all content for our baseball and softball program. So that's from marketing content, um, advertisement type stuff, social media content, um, everything in between, photo, video, and then usually photos end up in graphic designs. So graphic design.
You know, what made you get into that? What made you want to, do all these videos and pictures and editing and all that kind of thing?
It's a really kind of long, funny story. As a kid, I did Lego stop motions, and really wanted to be a director, and I wanted to play baseball. So I was like, I'm gonna play baseball and then go to college at UCLA in California, and go become a director. So that was the goal in like third grade. And then I continued growing up, stopped doing the stop motion as much, didn't really do that. Continued on through life, went off to college and started taking pictures with my phone. And I really enjoyed taking pictures with my phone places I went. Like when we went to New York, I took a lot of pictures that trip. Um, and that kind of, I would almost say that trip specifically had led down to me wanting to take more pictures in general and then getting into photography. By getting into photography, I slowly worked my way into videography, mainly just through work. Um, and so it was just a good opportunity that I saw when I was, wanting to change fields a year ago.
Yeah, no, definitely. And like, would you say that it's difficult to get into photography? Like, is the field big? Is it small? Do you need people, or how easy would it be, do you think, to get like a photography, videography type of job?
I think it would be probably it, it's tough, just to kind of estimate it, I guess. But I would say it's probably more on the hard side, just because if there's a company looking for a professional, they're looking for somebody with, XYZ experience. Um, and so if you're just starting off, it's going to be harder to meet those kind of levels of experience. And especially if you are just starting off, it takes a while to get off the ground. Just because, if you're going to freelance and use that as your way, and freelancing is just doing it yourself, doing it all by yourself, self-ran, and you just kind of pick up jobs as they come. That can be a harder path to get to that experience level you need for higher positions with organizations.
Right. And when you said you wanted to be a director, are you thinking like movies, like you want to do kind of movies and things, or do you want to just kind of do commercials, or continue kind of doing what you're doing now and just making content for different companies?
Yeah, when I was a kid, I would certainly say movies. Now I would say the passion is just around, you know, the brand that I work with. I love baseball. I love softball at this point. I love being around where I get to work. It's cool. So I definitely want to continue where I'm at, and just continue down that path. But it would not be unheard of in my head if I went and well, tried to produce or shoot some sort of like short documentary or short film, and go up that more director path. that wouldn't be a surprise either. But I do want to stay where I'm at
No, I
and in
think,
that lane.
that's cool. That's very cool. I think because I remember when we were when we were friends, we're still friends. I remember when we were younger. I don't think that pictures really came up a lot, in anything we ever talked about, any type of conversation. And for those of you who don't know, Austin and I, we kind of really became friends. I would say in eighth grade, we were like 13, and I don't know why, but in every class that we had together, we sat next to each other. And it was like almost all year too. Like they would switch up all of the different seats and everybody would sit next to somebody new. And then Austin and I would still sit right next to each other. And from that time on, we were always just kind of friends. And then we got into ultimate frisbee and just kind of stuck together. And I think during all of that time, I don't think we ever really talked about photography or anything. It was always more architecture, I think.
Yep.
And then,
Yep.
but what's interesting is after I went to Brazil the first time, I came back and you were super into photography. You and Logan, you both were. I came back and I felt out of place. I felt so out of place that I even bought a camera and I started taking pictures and things because I was like, all my friends are doing it and I don't know what to talk to them about if I don't. So it's interesting. And what kind of made you want to come back to it? Like I said, you were talking about the trip to New York. Do you think that that's really kind of what brought you back to photography?
Yeah, I think just the idea of taking pictures of places was my favorite thing um, to do. Whether that was like I said, New York City, DC, that whole trip, all across that to even beyond then, going to Colorado to the mountains numerous times. Um, and more, I lean to go just so I can take pictures now. That's almost how I view a lot of my trips is how can I do this so I can go take pictures. Just because it's enjoyable for me. But obviously more people want to see pictures of people. So it was kind of difficult to get into people pictures like portraits, just because I am more myself of an introvert. So I don't like putting myself out there that much. I don't like going out and reaching out to new people and being like, hey, do you want pictures? Not really the person I am.
Right.
So getting into portraits was a little more difficult, but I really just started with my wife, Emily, when she was living with me in Kansas. I started to take a lot more pictures of just her and then more and more portraits of her. And then now I've gotten to take portraits of lots of people. So just a lot of practice. And
Yeah.
I don't really know how I got back into it. Like I said, I think it was just kind of a stumbling and just kind of more of like a ping, that it is just kind of what I'm supposed to do. This is what I'm passionate about. And so just finding my lane in that passion is
Yeah.
really what I've been up to.
Yeah, I think that's really cool because, my dad, I don't know when or how it started, but I think he likes photography. I mean, he does it a lot. Um, but he started taking a lot of pictures and it was the same thing, he would take pictures of things in the city. He would go take pictures of nature. He has all of these cool pictures of eagles. I remember there was a night that the moon was supposed to be really, really full and beautiful. And he spent, I don't know how much money on renting, not buying. He rented a lens and put his camera out there for like 10 minutes trying to take the perfect picture of the moon. And he got a really good picture of it. It's in our house, but he got really into that and he kind of wanted to use that to have something to do with my mom as well. Cause my mom, she also kind of liked taking pictures and, people who don't know my parents, my dad, he's very, if he starts to do something, he gets like 110% into it. And so because he did that, he also got my mom a camera and then they both started taking pictures and they officially, I guess a couple months ago, they officially started their own photography business. And it was really hard because like Bledsoe Photography and all that stuff was already taken. Like it was, there's so many different names for people take pictures of. And, um, and so but they did start and, I think that my dad does a pretty good job. He's really good at taking pictures of people, but I would actually say that when I did do a lot more pictures, when I did take a lot, my favorite things to take pictures of was people. I think taking pictures of people is, I think you can tell a bigger story with it. I don't know, for me, because I always, every photographer has their own view of how pictures should be. But for me, a picture should tell a story, and it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter how natural the picture is or how edited it may be. If you can tell the right story with the picture, I think it looks good. Because I took a picture of Logan one time, and he didn't like the picture, but I took a picture of it, and the reason why he didn't like it is he was telling me that the lighting was off, but it wasn't about the lighting. I didn't care about the lighting in the picture, because what I did with it is I made him really dark, and I made the rest of it. It kind of made him, I don't know how to describe the picture, but it made him look like somebody who was like seeking revenge or something. That was the kind of thing that I wanted from it. And recently he sent that picture in a group to somebody. He was like, "This is a picture of me. Will it work?" And I was like, "I took that picture. That was me." I I knew he would like it. He just didn't want to tell me whenever I took it.
That's funny.
But how do you see photography? Like what is good photography to you?
That's such an awful question. I hate that question. It's not a bad, it's a great question. It's very opinionated. Um,
Well, that's why I ask.
I mean, I like artistic edits, like cinematic. I feel like is a good term to put with that. If the photography feels like a cinema, it has a cinematic feel. I view that as really good. Obviously, the details of the photo have to be in place. A good subject and focus. Those sort of things. But when it comes to like editing and stuff like that, the cinematic feels and the more uh, yeah, that seems like the easiest word to describe it. I call it
Basically,
crispy.
yeah, crispy. I guess that makes sense. Crispy, like it just has a good crisp.
Is a
Yeah.
crisp photo.
If
Yeah,
it's a crisp photo, then it's good. I like that. That's a good way to think of it. It just goes together, and it runs smoothly. It's almost like it moves, but it's not a movie, right? It's a picture. No, that's
yeah.
cool.
I posted some crispy baseball photos from last weekend, the first weekend of June,
I saw those.
up on my Instagram. Those were crispy.
No, they looked good. I liked them. They were really good. And
Would you say they were crispy?
I would say that they were crispy. They were very, very unique and very crispy in all the right ways. But yeah, no, that's really cool. I think I think it's really fun to see your friends go from what you thought they were going to do when you were younger, and where they are now, what they've done. I can't tell you how many things I was wrong about, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like not with you, but with just so many other people like that I see that are my friends. I'm like, oh yeah, they're gonna be really successful, and then they're not. Or people who I thought weren't gonna do very much, and they ended up doing a lot and having a lot of different things. And like I said, like photography, that never came to me, and I was like, yeah, Austin's gonna take pictures. Same with
Yeah.
Logan. I never thought Logan was gonna take pictures either. I was thought you guys were gonna do your own things and kind of go off and do that. But I think it's really cool. And I I think with me, I really don't know Um, I always tell people that I started teaching English because I needed money, because that's usually why we work, why we do things. But it's kind of turned into something a little bit more than that. It's become something that's really exciting. It's something that's thrilling. It's crazy being able to help somebody understand a little bit more of the world, because that's how I see English. Same way you probably see photography. It's a way to show people how you see things. It's a way to express yourself. And I think, for me, like teaching English, that that's something that I can use to show people how the world is. Because just like in the US, before you went to Europe, you probably thought a little different about the US, and then you go out and you live a little bit and you realize that it's not the same. It's not what we think it is. I always tell people that if I was, president of the world and I could make sure that everybody did something, I would make sure that everybody lived outside of their country somewhere for at least a couple months, maybe a year, just so that they can understand that there's so much more to how the world works. And I think photography is a good way to do that. And I think that's a great way to show people. If any of you ever want to, you can find Austin's photos on his Instagram. What's your Instagram?
Well, the Instagram handle is at austin.heal.
Heal, Heal,
Yep.
right? Heal.
Yep.
Um,
Heal.
but yeah, you can see his pictures, and he took some in where'd you get married? Was it Switzerland?
Switzerland.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
lot of crazy pictures there.
Went the Alps. So yeah, most of the pictures I think were from the Alps, and then a couple were from in Zurich, which is, I believe, the capital of Switzerland.
Did you stay in Switzerland whenever you went there, whenever you went to Europe?
Yeah, we stayed in Switzerland the whole time. It was a whole mess getting there. Um, and I visited five total countries, or I was in five total countries. That whole trip, the entirety of it was spent in Switzerland, and all the other countries were just stopping points on our
Right.
flights.
Okay, cool. Very cool. Yeah. And do you think that traveling is a good way for people to kind of progress and be better, just be better people in general?
Yeah, yeah, it'll put you through the ringer. Just the stress of traveling, especially international, um, with multiple connecting flights and stuff like that. I think it's well worth it for anyone who has the opportunity to get outside of their country and visit other parts of the world. Even if that's just the next country over, it's going to be different more than likely than where you're at. Um, yeah, I think Europe was a crazy experience as an American, just to see a very similar style of culture in a way, but very different at the same time.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that, it's I tell people, because I haven't been everywhere in the world. I've only been to the United States and Brazil, but just being in Brazil and seeing how people live, what the culture is like. Also, seeing how people see us outside of the U.S. Because in the U.S. we kind of understand how people see us. We know people think that we're a little arrogant and that we're a little big headed, but we don't think about really how people see the U.S. And I don't know what your experience was in Switzerland, because I know you weren't there for a really long time, but my experience here is that either people either love people from the United States or they hate them. There's not a lot of people who are like in the middle. It's either, oh, I love the US, or it's like, oh, I don't like your country because you have all of these problems and things. And so it's just, it's interesting how that played a big part, or still plays a big part. I talk to people all the time, like here in Brazil, something that's interesting, um, before we end, and I want to hear your opinion on this. But um, a lot of times here in Brazil, they don't like it when an American calls themselves an American, because here, the way that they see Americans is everybody from North America and South America is American. And they're not wrong. They're not wrong. Everybody's American, kind of. But my fight on the title is, first of all, the way that what they do call us, because what they call us here is it's estadounidense. What that means is like a United Stadian, basically, if you were to translate, which isn't a word, doesn't make sense in English. And no English-speaking country calls somebody from the United States anything else other than American. And most countries in other languages also only call Americans Americans. But they get angry because they think that by us calling ourselves Americans, we're saying that we own everything. Which I understand how they can think that, but they need to think that we're not smart enough to really have that thought in our mind when we say it. Like it just because that's the name of the country.
It's just in our name.
Yeah,
we're not taking it away from anyone.
Right. No other country on the continents, on both of them, have America in the name. That's why we have it, And by calling us a United Stadian, that also doesn't work, because what's the name of Mexico? The actual name of Mexico is, don't quote me on this, but it's like United States of Mexico. That is the name. So that they are also the estadounidense in the world. So it just doesn't make sense.
Right.
The way that we've been since the beginning has been American. And so that's an interesting view I've seen a lot of people have on us. And it's something that we don't even think about. We've never, I don't know about you, if you've ever thought about that, but
it makes sense. It makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. But yeah, from our standpoint, like you said, that we don't have that thought past it says the United States of America, so that makes us American. Whereas that further thought is, okay, well, this is North America and this is South America and we're all America. That thought doesn't come into the American's head at all.
No, it doesn't enter our head. And we're never, and the thing is the reason I think that what I've been told is the reason why they don't like it. At least my friends have told me, is that it makes them think that we're trying to say that we own America, and I get that. I get why that could be offensive, but like I said, I can't tell you any time in my life that I've ever been like, oh, yeah, we're the United States. We own every other country. No, I think for the most part we're pretty respectful, other than in the Olympics when we're all competitive against each other. But other than that, it's really, it's just them thinking something about us that we don't even think about us. And I think it's an interesting thought. But yeah, and I think that will about do it for our episode today. Austin, do you have anything else you wanted to say?
I think we covered it. You asked as many questions as you wanted, so.
Yeah, obviously there's plenty more that we can ask, and we'll talk about different topics the next time. But thank you everybody for listening to BledTalk this week. We're excited. I'm happy to have Austin back, and I hope to have him come on many episodes, and I hope that you all learned a lot of new words and new things, and stay safe. Have a great week, and have a good day or a good night wherever you are and wherever you're listening. But thank you. We'll talk to you next time. Bye. Thank you for listening to BledTalk. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us for more content. We are on all of the popular podcast platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcast, and we're even on YouTube. Don't forget to send in your questions and your suggestions. Thank you once again, and have a great day.